Alright, welcome to Bell Peppers and Beef. This week we're talking about sessions 25 and 26, The Real Folk Blues. I'm Paul.
Dave.
And Justin.
Alright, Dave, what happened in these two episodes?
Well, a whole mess of things. With the two-parter and just all the particular stuff that they needed to cram into everything. It was a little bit nuts for the end of the series.
Let's just start with the first part at least.
Julia shows up.
Yes, Julia.
Yes. We find out that she's still alive.
Yep.
Which I don't think we knew yet, did we?
No.
It wasn't 100% established whether she was alive.
Yeah, because we only saw her in flashbacks.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't 100% sure. Okay, cool. Keep on going, Dave.
Well, Vicious decided to step back in and try to take over his syndicate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The Red Dragons.
And that did not turn out so well.
Supposedly at first, you know.
Yeah, no, he tries to murder all the elders, and then
He gets himself
it backfires on him.
Yeah.
Because he ends up having to be taken to, what do they call it, the chamber?
Supposedly. But yeah, it's sort of placed there to be like, yeah, you're sentenced to death, dude.
Yeah, but it's when we decide to kill you, not when you decide to die.
Yeah.
Which is really, really great.
Mm.
Okay, so,
Just so happens that Jet and Spike are around the same planet around the same time. Spike happens to be part of that syndicate. Oh wait, isn't it the case that they wanted to get rid of anybody who was going to plan a takeover or left the syndicate in some way? Oh no, bar shootout.
yeah. And Jet ends up getting shot,
Yeah.
and we meet Shin,
Shin.
Yep.
who is the twin brother of Lin.
Yes.
From episode, 13?
Round there where they last met Vicious.
Yes. Okay. Now, I had a slight issue with this, because it's rather convenient that they're bringing up a twin brother in the last episode, but, okay, I'll go with it.
Meh.
Because I don't think they brought up him having a brother earlier.
I don't really recall.
No, not with him. I don't think they specifically brought up any sort of particular thing like that.
Okay. So, I wrote down a lot of quotes from this episode. So we have a bunch of flashbacks, and then we have a moment where Spike and Julia are talking. And Spike says, "I'll meet you by the graves, not in them."
Mm-hmm.
And I just really love that line.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next, Dave?
Well, flashbacks and whatnot. There's a discussion between Spike and Julia about wanting to leave the syndicate. But of course, leaving the syndicate can be messy and whatnot and all the things. And Vicious finds out. So Vicious is an ass, as Viciouses like to do, and gives Julia the task of killing Spike, or she gonna die.
Yeah, it's you kill him or you both die.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a pretty great little villainous thing.
Indeed.
And then of course, what would a Cowboy Bebop episode be without Faye showing up even though she technically left the Bebop?
Well, then she's kind of called back to the Bebop because, well, after the thing with her and Julia, I think, was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, they meet up and she learns that she's Julia, and basically she had to give Spike something.
Yeah. She had to give a message to Spike.
Bleh. Also before that, we run into the I think it was Top Shots for the Bounty Hunter TV show. There was a cameo by that guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, the big shots.
Yeah.
The one guy shows up, meets his mother, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to help take care of her and whatnot.
Yeah.
Supposedly, well, no, I think the co-star host with him is supposedly marrying her lawyer.
Agent.
But yes. Julia shows up, gets into some shenanigans with the syndicate trying to kill her. Faye comes in and assists. Faye also turns out to have a decent shot. But aside from that, friends, whatnot, have girl talk. Julia knows that Faye's hung out with Spike, lets her know that, give a message to her, and Faye's like, what? And then, yeah, continuing on from there.
Yeah, at one point Faye was called back to the Bebop by Spike. Spike mentions that Jet was shot, or whatever, leg, or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to get to one moment where Vicious is going to kill someone, which is near the end of the episode.
Alright.
Where he goes, he's got, I think the guy's down on his knees, and Vicious has his sword, right up to the
his
guy's eyes, and he slices, and he says, "You will shed tears of scarlet."
Yes.
That's just such
That is a beautiful one.
great moment.
Oh yeah, that was after this was when they were about to execute Vicious, and then the crow flies in, and,
explodes and sends out a whole bunch more bombs, and then the several syndicate members that are part of Vicious's group turn on the other syndicate members and shoot them all down. And it's just, I essentially just put the note, shit is going down with that scene that was going
Vicious
on.
gets shot out of his cuffs.
Yeah, and Vicious ends up becoming the head of the syndicate.
Yep.
And at the very end, we go to the graveyard.
Yep.
Where Julia's carrying a gun, and Spike has a rose.
With that bloody music box music playing.
Oh yeah.
And that ends part 1.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to part 2.
Pretty much right back where everything ended. Even without the intro as well.
Yeah, no need for intro now. It's the last episode.
I was supposed to kill you. It's my first note, because that's like one of the first things Julia says.
Meh.
And it's really great. So we end up going to see Annie, who that's the chick from the other episode, right?
Yeah, is somebody from another episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one who remember those kids that tried to take the adult magazines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the same person. Good.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. They find her. She's been shot in the stomach, and she ends up dying.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically Spike realizes he has to kill Vicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think more so of the
it's
case of they're trying to get away from the syndicate and whatnot.
Like,
But
No, but I think at that point Spike kind of realizes there's no more running. Because Vicious is full on gunning for him 100%.
a bit, but I think the real turning point was when Julia gets shot.
Okay, yeah, that's fair too.
Well, I mean, granted, he was already getting ammunition and like full arsenal of everything.
Yeah, he was.
on him.
He was loading up at that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Annie died, I guess.
But no, as soon as Julia's passed and whatnot, that pretty much was just end goal. Vicious needs to go down.
Yeah.
So yeah, she gets shot, and yeah.
And there's a great line where they're referring to Julia, and it's an angel from the underworld or a devil from paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Which I just love that line. There's also a moment where I think it's Jet goes to talk to some like native elder or something.
The same native elder that Spike met with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says that his star is about to fall because every person has a star in the sky, and when you die, your star falls.
Mm-hmm. The other interesting thing, before Spike decides to head out to take out Vicious, he stops by the Bebop for some bell peppers and beef.
Yep.
It's Spike's last meal.
Mm-hmm.
And also talks about a cat, apparently.
Yep, mentions about his story. Actually, both Jet and Spike sort of mention stories about that.
Yeah, similar-ish, and
Well,
Spike's
more
like,
so of a case of their stories represent the mindsets that they sort of picked up and lived by through their lives.
I hate this story because I don't like cats, you know?
Okay.
And they definitely share a good laugh about it.
But, then, of course, Spike mentions Julia is dead.
Yeah, and Spike goes off to die.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And has,
Faye
like,
isn't exactly happy about it.
Yeah.
Has
So they have a
last
pretty great
conversation
exchange.
with, like, last exchange with Jet and Faye
Mm-hmm.
for, going off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a problem when him and Faye are talking.
No, yeah.
As much as I love this, and maybe I forgot something from early in the
Oh, when,
series.
you know, his eye is a different color?
For once, here's my problem. At this point, they say that he can see the past with his fake eye.
Mm-hmm.
Was that established previously?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Is it mentioned?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, because I completely forgot it, and it made me mad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was my big issue, really, with this episode. Was I didn't think that had been established previously, but
No.
I'll call
In
it
that
if I'm
case,
wrong.
it was a couple of times.
Okay, I just don't remember it then. So then we go down to where Vicious and his crew are.
The entire sequence of him going through the syndicate to get up to Vicious
Yes.
while the real folk blues plays.
Yeah, basically the full song,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a moment where, before he leaves the ship, where Faye shoots at Spike.
Tries to it.
Well, yes.
Of course.
She comes. She
misses,
yeah.
like, a small tantrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she fires 5 shots.
Hmm.
And so I just automatically assume that's his 21 gun salute. Like that's making it very clear he is going to die.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but
No, it's definitely a good point.
okay. What happens after that, Dave?
Well, after the explosion, I believe it was Jin is the other one that follows along with him. He runs into him running through the syndicate. He goes through all the things, dies just like his brother did.
Yeah.
So, another one to add on to the list of people lost in this episode. It finally gets down to the showdown with Vicious up at the top of the roof after a giant explosion.
Okay, I just want to stop you there because there's a moment prior to that I want to talk about briefly. And that is when the other dude is shot. His name was Jin, right?
I believe so.
And he says to Spike, I was waiting for you to take over.
Ah.
And I really want to see an alternate take on Cowboy Bebop where you switch Vicious and Spike.
Ah.
Because that would be really interesting.
I'll get into the ending once we get to it, though. Anyway.
Alrighty. So continue on, Dave.
So, pretty much like their last couple of fights, most things seem to be pretty even when it comes to Spike and Vicious battling. Even with Spike being shot in the arm, losing blood, and not exactly in prime condition, he's able to stay somewhat toe-to-toe with Vicious, where they knock each other's weapons out and it slides to the opposite person.
A gun and a sword fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But somehow it's still quite even.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty great. They each end up having each other's weapons and then they trade back.
Back to go in for one last strike at one another.
Yes.
Yep. And then Vicious falls, and then
Spike can manage to stay at least a bit, but his wounds are a little bit too fatal to...
And he also ends up a bit like... all the guys are basically pointing their guns at him or something.
Not just a case of they see him there, he walks down the stairs, takes one last look, and delivers that famous last little line of his.
Bang. Bang.
And falls.
Yes.
However, it's not 100% implied that he died. It's actually a little ambiguous.
No, he did.
He could be dead.
Add it, he did.
He could be dead.
Okay. So, Justin, he's dead. Now,
Probably.
if this were Prison Break, he would still be alive. Because they cut a character's head off and that character
However,
came back.
It is also the end of Cowboy Bebop, so pretty much at that point after it, you don't hear or see of him again because there are no more episodes.
Well,
and depending on if you guys watched enough,
So the end of the credits.
credit sequence goes through
Yeah.
up into the stars, where we see a star fade out.
Yeah, basically that implies that he died.
Yeah, and narratively he has to die.
It wouldn't be the first time he died.
No.
He got better once or twice.
Yes.
No, but like in terms of storytelling, Spike has to die at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, true.
Yes. Alrighty, so David, what do you think of this episode?
I think on the whole, everything finishes up the story that it needed to be finished up this way. I can somewhat remember when I first watched through it and looked up online for other people discussing about this sort of thing, that so many people were heartbroken about this sort of stuff, but it just had to happen because the last words from the show emphasize everything about it, which is you're gonna carry that weight.
Oh yeah.
Which, on the whole, emphasizes everything that Cowboy Bebop is. Throughout the entire series, there have been tons of different stories where dozens of people have died and lives have been cut short. Yet, in some cases, most people have probably forgotten about them because they supposedly weren't the main characters we were focusing on. With something like this happening to a main character, it brings forth that idea and emphasizes onto it that all these particular stories that this person has gone through and all the experiences that we followed through has come to an end. And everything that we cared about or felt about this particular character is now something that we have to carry on through our lives, which, as it sort of is the main thing of life that everyone needs to sort of deal with. The fact that if you don't carry these sorts of things, you're not really living in a certain sort of case. But if you let all these sorts of weights weigh you down, there's no way that you can sort of survive through life. And I also have to apologize, but despite the fact that this is supposedly deep and amazing, these are not my own thoughts. I've heard a person discuss about it, and I agree with him, with all the particular points that were made about these sorts of things.
Alrighty, Justin, your thoughts?
Pretty much everything David had just said, for the most part.
Anything additional to correct or add on to?
Not without spoiling the ending of other games that I'm thinking of. Namely, one would be like a particular Persona game, but I'm not going to get into that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is probably my favorite episode.
That does not surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me either.
This is also the episode that emphasizes every problem I have with Cowboy Bebop. But
interesting.
Because this episode is so fucking good. And there's... When the show wants to focus on its main characters and telling stories about them, the show is fucking great. My biggest problem is when it goes off and wants to do these dumb one-off stories that don't matter. And I understand... I understand the idea of the totality of the series being we're following this person's life and everything that they go through. I get that. I just wish that those stories were better told as a general rule. So, while I love this, it also emphasizes problems I have with the series as a whole. I still think it's a phenomenal episode and a phenomenal way to wrap up the series. So, David, do you have a rating for this episode?
I honestly think that this would break the scale. This is the biggest and main reason why Cowboy Bebop was amazing for people when they watched it, and even up to today. Watching through it again, remembering the experience the one time, and how things were now, it broke me with most things as it was, but sort of understanding the story and the thought process that I sort of explained with it, it doesn't sort of diminish anything from it. Tens all around in most cases when it comes to it. There is probably the critical story thing that they could probably better explain or other sorts of particular stuff, but on the whole, it's a fantastic way to end this series.
Alrighty, and Justin?
Indeed. It is a really great way to wrap up this whole series. With, there probably isn't much better way to end it. Usually in anime, in a lot of anime, it doesn't end too well, for one. I've seen actually quite a few that don't really end. And it's like, we're just gonna continue on. It's like, no. You haven't really ended the main plot.
Yeah.
It ends just too soon for my liking.
Yeah.
And this one, it definitely ends. For sure. And it's a good ending.
It is. I really love this episode, like I said. I think it's fantastic. This would be the only episode I would give a 10 out of 10 to. I think it is a phenomenal piece of animation. I think it is a phenomenal episode. I think it's great television. As I said, I have issues with the series in its entirety, but this episode is everything that I want the series. I wish the entire series was. But this is arguably one of the best animated things I've ever seen.
Nice.
You have any final thoughts, David?
I think as it sort of sits with everything, I think we just need to end it. And end it with...
A bang.
Yes.
Justin, you just stepped all over that shit.
Damn it!
You son of a bitch.
We'll have to live with it.
Justin, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, let's just end it with a bang.
Bang.